folks, and welcome back to the Books and Fantastical Wigs channel. If you're new, my name is Shri, and today we're talking about the absolutely lovely trilogy, The House Witch by the Canadian author Delemhach. Accompanying our book chat today is the Coastal Cottage scented Haunted Book Club candle that I hand poured myself. If you're reading The House Witch, though, I would recommend choosing the Snickerdoodle or Sugar Plum Punch fragrance. That might actually be more apt, but I simply wanted a mild scent for today. If you are interested in bringing some bookish coziness to your space or bookstore, you can find those links in the description box below. Now onto the House Witch trilogy. I listened to this in audiobook format through Hoopla, and it was honestly the perfect start to October, although I typically can't resonate with a lot of audiobooks since the narration needs to be just right for me to enjoy. Matthew Wolfe did an amazing job of performing it, at least in a way that I personally enjoy. If I had to describe this book, I would say it's an incredibly cute, cozy, humorous fantasy with non-spicy romance. I absolutely loved everything so much and would give the trilogy as a whole 5 stars. Keep in mind, I am not sure if I would be having the same reaction if I read it in book format, since I experience audiobooks and physical books quite differently. But Delemhach did a fantastic job in creating the feeling that I get when I light a warm candle and have a cozy blanket on a snowy winter evening. My interest in The House Witch peaked when I found out it was about a male house witch protagonist that cooks hearty meals, cleans, and protects spaces he considers home. It already sounded so cute, and it didn't disappoint when I got into it. His powers only work in the places that he felt were his home. I do want to talk about some things that I thought Delemhach did well, so from here onwards there will be spoilers. I have to commend Delemhach for creating what I believe to be a truly good male protagonist. This is probably the biggest point for me right now. What do I mean by this? I love myself some Romantasy, but I think we can enjoy a book while recognizing its flaws. I mean, every book has its flaws. In Romantasy, I think it's been trending with toxic male protagonists and their traumatic pasts that cause both the love interest and the readers to empathize with the male protagonist enough to want to excuse that behavior. It seems to be a persisting issue in Romantasy, and frankly, it's being overused in the genre right now, as though there aren't other ways to build conflict in a romance subplot. Is toxic behavior the only way to show conflict between a couple? Of course not. There have been authors, I'm sure throughout history, that have used other methods. In this case, Delemhach uses a combination of internal and external conflicts that both Finlay and Anika need to work through on their own and with each other before they're able to be together. I mean, Finlay had a traumatic childhood, and it did change him. Yes, it made him want to be alone, apprehensive of forming friendships or other bonds, but he is a wonderfully sensitive house witch that wants to make warm meals for people with love and wants to create the cozy, safe, and homely feels in the hearts of all the people around him. Finlay is also hard-headed and refuses to be ennobled, and therefore pretends he's not in love with Anika. He didn't, however, become an aggressive, toxic person towards her. Instead, he worked through his internal conflict to choose a path forward on whether or not he would confess to her and give his love a chance. Meanwhile, Anika feels a sense of duty towards the crown, as the king plans to marry her to solidify political alliances while an impending war looms over the kingdom, and she needs to work through her inner conflict between her duty to the crown and chancing a future with the man she loves. Once they both decide to give their love a chance, there still existed external conflicts of charting a plan to ensure their marriage is actually accepted by the crown and that the kingdom isn't destroyed in war. The second part because why would you want that on your conscience? And the first because, after all, a cook could never marry a noblewoman, even one who was widowed, within the cultural context of this book at least. Whereas in some Romantasy books I read, we are informed from the women's point of view that they feel unjustifiably safe with this man they were destined to fall in love with or mate with. We see Finlay's actions make us as readers feel that way because he treats everyone around him that way, not just his love interest. He reforms the knights that harassed Hannah, and those knights had striking character development by the end of the trilogy that it truly felt that they were part of Finn's family in the end. He stood behind Hannah, who I'm sure was capable of being strong from the start. Sometimes, however, you just need to feel like you have a safe space to be able to speak out, and Finn just happened to be there giving her exactly that. It gave her the will to fight. The various character developments were not rushed, and trust me when I say there are so many characters that had gone through development in this trilogy. Those developments happened gradually, and the interactions that all the characters had really seemed like they drove each other's developments. It wasn't like it was only Finn swooping in and saving everyone's day all the time. And honestly, this is so important to me because all of these little instances where they helped each other or stood for each other or protected each other, it really gave a chance to fall in love with, to understand pretty much all the characters except Finn's abusive father in the enemy kingdom. We got to see their journey helping each other and growing, and we got invested in that. Honestly, sometimes when people say like, oh, this like entire chunk of a book could just have been cut out. I'm not speaking directly about this book, but like in general, sometimes, yes, sometimes you can take out chunks of the book and nothing would have changed. Other times, there isn't something grand going on in the book, but if you took it out, you would no longer be invested in that story. Yes, you would find out exactly what was happening. You'd get to the point of the book, but that emotional punch, it's packed if you are invested in those characters. I also loved Delemhach showing two schools of thought regarding newer varying witch powers. One school where witches such as Finn are viewed as deficient witches, and another where they're viewed as the chosen ones. One is a literal supremacist ideology, such as that of Finn's father, who thinks his being a fire witch makes him pure, while Finn being a house witch makes Finn deficient. It is frankly refreshing to see that there was this alternate viewpoint in this world, that these mutated witches were actually evolving in tandem with the changing needs of society. Like, what a refreshing take. I could expound much more on how satisfying it is to see that themes of hate, fear, and isolation led to further destruction, even self-destruction in the end, while themes of love, community, and empathy led to strength, happiness, and fulfillment, frankly speaking. Especially in recent years here in the States, it seems like hate, isolation, distrust, and supremacist ideology is really gaining traction. It's nice to see a very clear win for love, tolerance, and community, and the strength that comes with it. Okay, now I want to briefly move on to Kraken the cat, Finn's familiar. My goodness, how adorable. Kraken balances out Finn's domestic, simple, warm, inviting energy with his grand, organized, scheming, chaotic energy. Kraken, the mighty cat, can set fire to buildings, take down ships, and negotiate deals with rats to destroy fire-breathing dragons to basically aid his human companion in exchange for, if I remember correctly, a loving home environment. Kraken tells Finn, "You bring peace and much more. I am war, chaos, and seductively fluffy." I have no further words on Kraken except that he's my favorite familiar so far. Him and Finn are such a lovely pair, and I don't remember if Finn truly realized or appreciated how much of their actions worked so well in tandem to achieve the shared objectives during the war, and before it too. Anyways, I could probably go on about the House Witch trilogy, but I think I will end it here for this video. If you have read this trilogy, or if it sounds right up your alley, definitely let me know. I could talk about this forever. Unfortunately, Hoopla doesn't have the Burning Witch trilogy, which I plan to read next. I'm pretty excited since it would be about, I believe it's about Finn's daughter, and the end of the House Witch hinted at future conflicts already. If I do end up going for the physical books this time, they will probably have to wait a few years while I get through my physical TBR. With that, thank you so much if you stayed until the end. If you do like this sort of content where I just pick out a few topics and the many thoughts I probably had while reading a book and just talk about it for a while, please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. See you next time, folks.